Hello and welcome to Up the Villa podcast. On today's episode, I've set the boys a challenge to create their ultimate five-a-side Aston Villa football team. The rules are simple: goalkeeper, defender, two midfielders and a striker. We'd like you to drop your team in the comments down below. It'd be great if you could subscribe to this channel and also drop this video a like. Let's see what the boys have got to offer. Up the Villa. So let's go. Here he is, Ryan. I've gave them all pre-season off, so they've all had a little bit of a break. Now they're going to be back with a bang. So how are you?
Yeah, it's not too bad, mate. Doing the usual pre-season jobs, bit of decorating, work on the garden. So good to be back.
Great stuff. So I've asked you to come up with your ultimate Aston Villa five-a-side team. So what are you coming up with?
It was tough. Five, it's just not enough. But yeah, I've broken it down to my five, and my team name is Creators of Scenes.
Okay.
So yeah, my philosophy behind this was I wanted to see the players play who I've seen live as a fan. You know what happens being a Villa fan: if we sign someone that we haven't seen play, you end up with a Balaban or a Tonov or along them scales. But yeah, and these players have given me the most excitement and joy as a fan. You know, some of the best, say maybe the best season, or even if it's just one game. Yeah. So my goalkeeper, Bozzy.
Yeah.
He was the first name I put down, and I thought, try and dislodge him. No one really come close. Friedel had a good stint in goal for us, but Bozzy's my ultimate. He had that iconic rainbow kit. And when I started going down the Villa, it was a bit of a tussle between him and Spink. And I didn't really appreciate Spink then.
Yeah.
You know, as a young kid, he was like, oh, Bozzy, he was an overseas player. There weren't many of them. And you thought, if you have an overseas player, it's class.
Yeah.
And so it was sort of a bit of a tussle between them two. And I was pro Bozzy all the time. And we talk about creating scenes. The semi-final, Coca-Cola Cup, Villa Park against Tranmere. And he saved 3 penalties in that penalty shootout.
Crazy.
And one of them was a sudden death. You know, we was on the verge of going out, and he pulled off them class saves. So for me, all day long, Bozzy.
Great stuff. Solid keeper. What a keeper he was as well. So moving on to your defender, you can only have one.
Oh, this was tough, mate. This was one of my toughest because as a kid growing up, I loved Gareth Southgate. Euro 96, I was still young enough to have pull-out posters on my bedroom wall. And when he missed that penalty, I remember going to bed as a kid that night, like putting down the posters, and I think I wrote on one of them, "Why you, Gareth?" Something like that. But it was safe to say I put them all back up in the morning. But I just love Southgate. I had him on the back of my AS t-shirt. But ultimately, mate, Paul McGrath. Going down Villa Park and seeing him play, he was awesome. His reading of the game was second to none. I don't think I've ever seen another footballer read it as well as him. And he didn't need his knees, and he didn't need to train. He could just turn up on a Saturday and perform the way he did. It was sensational, really. And I did meet him at Q&A in Digbeth not long ago. Look, and he signed this bad boy.
Oh my God.
So it was great. His Q&A was brilliant, and his book's a really good read as well. So he's just an all-round Villa hero, isn't he?
He's such a legend. Such a great defender and great servant to Villa. You know, when he won that PFA as well, you know, great for a defender, to be fair. So moving on to, you know, the real tasty part of your team then. What have you gone for?
So this was really tough as well because Merson, I loved watching Merson. He was brilliant. Gareth Barry, such an elegant player. Milner, I loved. David Platt was my first Villa hero when I was coming through. Ashley Young always had you on the edge of your seat, but I've gone with two boyhood Villa players I want in the middle of my team. Ian Taylor and Super Jack. I don't know whether I'm right in saying this, but the whole end upper opened after the lower opened and then the upper. And I remember the first game. I hope I'm right anyway. But I remember the first game was like a night game. Villa Park under the lights. We was playing Chelsea when the upper opened. I think we beat them 3-0. And I always remember Ian Taylor scoring and like giving it loads in front of the Holt. And you just knew it, you know. You used to sit in the Holt end. And to score that in front of the new stand, you know, must have been a sensational feeling. And then he scores in the League Cup final. He wins a trophy for Villa.
Yeah.
You know, it's
It was a great
it's stuff for dreams, isn't it?
As well. In that final, I thought he was quality.
Yeah, he was brilliant, absolutely brilliant, because he was playing for the club he loves, and you could tell every time he went on the pitch, he loved the Villa. And it's similar with Jack. You know, you could, the way he dragged us up last season and through the playoff final. I know the playoff final isn't winning a trophy or anything, but it sort of had that feel about it on the day.
Yeah.
So, and then what Jack did at Blues away as well. You know, the way he held his nerve and went and scored the winner. You know, as a Villa fan, what better feeling can you have? You know, that fat kid come and air punched his shoulder, and then he goes and scores the winner. Absolutely brilliant.
Just scenes, just great. Two great players, and I think, you know, worthy of any five-a-side team. So up front, who are you going for?
Again, this was instantly. I put Dwight York down because, mate, he was class. Like the goals that he used to score, the overhead kicks, that little dink penalty he did against Seaman. I think he did it at Sheffield United first. He was awesome. You know, and then Juan Pablo Angel as well. I loved him. He was like a fan's favourite. Everyone rooted for Angel. And then Benteke, I think he was up there. You know, on his day, he was unplayable. He was sensational for us. But I went with one that doesn't really appear in the five-a-side teams. But, mate, he's given me some unreal scenes in a football stadium, and that's Gabriel Bongo.
Yeah.
You know, the Blues games, mate, it's a horrible place to go. It's intimidating. It's dirty. It's just, you feel like you're in the middle of a war zone when you go there.
Yeah. And
2 years on the bounce, Gabby turns up with last-minute winners. And, mate, I've never been in a celebration like it. It's absolutely brilliant. And for that, he's my striker. And let's not forget, he's our all-time Premier League top goal scorer.
Yeah.
And plus, you know, he scored winners at Old Trafford. He scored winners at Liverpool. He scored at Arsenal. So, you know, big games. He scored big goals for us. And with Ashley Young and O'Neill's lot, I wanted to get someone in from that era, because that was an era where I was going to a lot of away games, and it was brilliant. It was brilliant following Villa in them days. And it's just a shame we didn't win that 2010 League Cup, because that team would have been spoke about like the 94 and 96 players that won it. Definitely. But ultimately, we only come away with a Peace Cup, didn't we, with that team?
Crazy. His pace was just unreal. And I think your team's really good, to be fair. I think it's got balance, but it's also got a bit of everything, hasn't it, really? You've got a really good team there.
It's got iconic kits. It's got boyhood fans. If you want to go off your nut at St Andrews away, you can. And if you want to win trophies, it's all there. It's all there in that five-a-side team, mate.
It's such a good team. Right, so I'm going to do my team now. So I started off, obviously, with the keeper to start with. And I know the club legends, the club heroes, you know, but I just thought I'm going to go with a keeper that I thought we haven't really replaced. Maybe we have with Heaton, but we haven't seen a keeper as good as Brad Friedel since, right? So I went with Brad Friedel in goal. It was in an era that I thought was actually really good, obviously with Martin O'Neill. So I went with Friedel because I thought he's a player as well that I've saw a lot of. I really don't remember seeing much of Bosnich apart from on YouTube. So I went with Friedel. My centre-back, I went with Melberg. I think any Villa player with a beard already is a legend before you even kick a ball. So there you go, Melberg.
His comments about the Blues as well. You know, that's got him a cult status as well, hasn't it?
You know, the shirts when he left as well. Just his overall game, I thought he was great servant to the club, really solid. I didn't want to go McGrath, I just thought I'll go someone a little bit different. So I went Melberg. Midfield-wise, now this is where it gets very, very tasty. So I've gone with Grealish and Ashley Young. I think if that midfield turns up at goals, you're going to be worried. You're going to be very, very worried. So we've got pace of Young, like you said, off your seat, energetic, dynamic. And then you've got Jack Grealish on the other end. You're not going to get the ball off him in a five-a-side. That's a fact. And I'd say he's probably my favourite player of all time now. What he's done to the club. And obviously just like living in that moment, you know, when you've got fans that talk about McGrath, York, I don't really remember watching them, so it's hard to relate when you're picking your best and your favourite players. So I'm going to go Grealish just for the story and everything that he's achieved. And then striker-wise, might get a bit of stick for this, I don't know, but I've gone with Angel. Again, a bit like the beard, any footballer that wears an Alice band to start with, again, he's a legend already. So, you know, it was in an era that I was proper getting into football. I was, you know, when you're at school and all your mates love football, and he's just a striker who's just, you know, he had the touch, he had the turn, you know, his finishing was great. I just wished he was probably in a slightly better Villa team, if that makes sense.
100%.
If he was in a better Villa team, we'd be talking about him a lot more. It reminds me a little bit of Jack at times, in the fact that not on his wavelength at times. And
he was always one step ahead, wasn't he, Angel?
Yeah. And that's what I feel the issue might have been with the goals return, although he did have that one good season. So that's what I've gone for. Wanted pace, wanted energy, bit of trickery. And the manager that I picked for that team would be Dean Smith. I think just living what we're going through now with the positivity, and he's brought us up, kept us up, took us to a final. Let's build now. Let's get better and better, and hopefully we can be talking about him for a long time. So that's my team, and I just thought I'd just drop my team in there as well. But I thought your team was really good, Ryan. Thanks for coming on. It's been great.
I didn't give you my manager, did I?
Oh yeah, what's your manager then?
Brian Little.
Legend.
For me, as a kid growing up, he created this team with your Southgates, your Yorks, your Townsends, your Drapers, and I think he's the last manager to win a cup, and he got us to fourth place as well, which is our highest finish since. But I love Little as a youngster growing up and following the Villa.
I think it's great just getting like everybody's and fans' opinions on who they think are their favourite players, because it's nice to look back and talk about the players that you were fond of as a kid, and the way you look at a player could be different to the way I look at a player, and that's where our opinions can differ from time to time. So I think you got a real good team, real solid team. So thanks for calling in, Ryan.
No, so I'm good to be back, mate.
Thanks, mate. So I'm delighted to say Justin's back in pre-season, repping the new shirt. So before we start, how are you feeling the shirt is?
Great. So I think it's a really good kit. Nice fit. I've gone, as a bigger chap, obviously the capper's a bit tighter fitting, so I've gone for the 3XL, which is probably at least one or two sizes bigger. But I think it's a better fit than last year. I think the arms are much better in proportion, depending on what size you have. Yeah, and I think the colours are better. I mean, I know that we're just saying that maybe that could be a bit lower, but it's something a bit different. I think when you look at some of the generic Nike and Adidas kits, I don't think this is too bad at all. And the pinstripes look nice. And the sponsor's quite nice. And the kids can have the sponsor this year, which is another good thing, whereas they haven't been able to have it for a few years, have they?
No, I feel like it looks great. So I've set you a challenge in pre-season to come up with your ultimate Villa five-a-side team. We've put a few little hidden tweaks that we've asked you to put into the squad as well. So to start with, who's going to be leading the five-a-side boys out? Who's your manager?
Well, obviously with all of these picks, having to only pick 5 players and one manager, at my age, like 44, I have seen quite a few managers and players come and go. So I've tried to be fair with everyone. But I think for me, it's got to be Graham Taylor, first real manager. I was there towards the end of Graham Turner's, sort of when he got fired. I don't really remember him that much, but I remember Taylor when he came in and what he did for the club. Very similar to what Dean Smith did last year, and he came in and totally revitalised us and got us back up. And not only that, he went on to finish runners up the year after, and then went on to England. So for me, as a sort of this age, while there has been some decent managers since, for me, I'm picking a manager. I'd like Graham Taylor as my manager, please.
No, so I feel like it's a real strong shout, a great manager for Villa. So what's your team name? What did you pick for that?
Well, I went for, again, you lot are all younger than me, so I've gone for experience over youth FC.
Okay, cool. We'll see how it fares then. So start off then, what's your team?
Right, again, there's going to be loads of people saying, why have you picked him, and I could only pick 5, so goalkeeper. But it is a 5-a-side team, so I've tried to think a little bit that it's not an 11-side game.
Yeah.
So in goal, I've started with Mark Bosnich, who, again, we've had lots of good keepers before and since. But for me, when I first started going down the Villa, Spinky was the main man, and sort of Bozzy came in after that. Came in for next to nothing, not really knew a lot about him, and went on to be outstanding for us. Played 179 games for the club. And I think if he looks back, he'd probably say it was a mistake to leave the Villa, because then he went on to play 40 games after he left us in the next 10 seasons. So if he'd have stayed at the club, he would have been an iconic, keeper for us. But at the time, his kicking isn't that good, which is why he probably gets the nod in a 5-a-side team, so he wouldn't have to do much kicking. But as a shot stopper, one of the games that really stands out for me was going to Sunderland in the Coca-Cola Cup, as it was. And we got absolutely battered that night. That was all over us the whole game. I think we had 4 shots and we won 4-1. And if you go and watch it on YouTube, Bosnich pulls off some unbelievable sides. And really, one of the main reasons, we went on to win the cup as well. But yeah, really good shot stopper. Again, I could have had 1 or 2 others, but for me, in this side, I've gone for Bozzy.
I think it's a real good shout. I know he's literally like one of the favourite keepers amongst most Villa fans. I think, like you say, he's a great shot stopper. And I think he's one of these where, like you said, we've had a lot of keepers over the past, but to be fair, there is only a few that do stand out as actual greats. And I think you've gone for such a great keeper. So who's your defender? What did you go for?
Well, I've only gone for 1 defender, and if you've only got to pick 1 defender, then there is only 1 defender to pick in the league. Let's be right. Yeah. Come on, we've gone for God at the back. I mean, not only... What can any Villa fan say about Paul McGrath that hasn't already been said? The bloke is just an absolute legend of the club. He came to us, basically, everyone thought he was finished. And through, Jim Walker, I think that he highlighted that in his book, Jim Walker basically kept him going. And he was unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. I was so lucky to be going home and away during that period. And so to see him play as much as I did, I still count myself so lucky. And sort of as also playing in this side, he used to play midfield as well for Republic of Ireland, a bit in a holding role. So he was decent on the ball. He was a real leader, unbelievable defender. Some of the games in the World Cup in '94, he's just unsurpassed, really. I don't think we have had good defenders since, Melberg was great, Larson was great, Southgate, Ekiel. We've had a lot of good defenders again, but still at the top of the tree for most Villa fans, if not all of them, is Paul McGrath, so I had to have him in. Great
shout. I mean, for me though, like I don't remember ever watching Paul McGrath play for Villa. Obviously, apart from watching him on videos, highlight reels, YouTube, stuff like that. So obviously, I know how good of a player he was for us. But for someone like my age, I was too young to remember it. So hearing you speaking so highly of him, it's just really good to hear.
He again, going back to the Graham Taylor thing, Taylor took a massive gamble on bringing Paul McGrath in. I remember we do actually. I talk a lot in Sutton to Jim Walker, the ex-Villa physio, and he told me that this story where Graham Taylor basically said, "I've got a player coming in for a medical." He said, "Basically, I need you to pass the medical. He's got to pass the medical," and that's what happened. He passed the medical, and by hook or by crook, he played week in, week out, and invariably was the best player on the pitch every single week. You know, to win PFA Player of the Year, coming from where he did at Man United, where he was basically let go and sort of written off. It's just an unbelievable story, you know, and he holds Villa in just as high as esteem as we hold him in, I think, as well. He still loves the club. So, yeah, an all-time Villa legend, and always will be.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. So, midfield-wise, who are you going for?
Yeah. Again, so looking at what you've set as 5 players, it's almost impossible. You know, I think I had about 200 in my shortlist, down to about 30 after about a month. So I've had to go with 2 players in a 5-a-side setup who you'd want to, you know, make things happen. And I've gone for 2 players I think are 2 of the most talented, ability-wise players I've ever seen in a Villa shirt. So Paul Merson and Jack Grealish. Similar-ish players. I know they've got different attributes, but both can go past people very easily. Both make things happen. Both players you'd want in your side. I think if you had Grealish on the left in the current side, which we have, and you stuck a Merson on that other side where sort of Trez plays, you know, we would have an outstanding front 2 there, you know, and you know, Merson again was a player that when he came, I was like, oh my God, we're signing Merson, you know, he's one of them. A type of player who we want to see now signing, you know, that's the level we want to play. A real player that's done it, been there, done it. It wasn't sort of at the end of his career, although he was coming towards the end. You know, a real coup to come to the club, and he never let anyone down. He was as good as everyone thought he was. You know, that shows the quality of the player. Came to a club. A lot of players have come to Villa over the years, and they've sort of said, you know, I didn't realise how big the club was. For Merson, he came from a big club that won trophies, you know, regularly, and he was just brilliant. Some of the goals he scored, and again, he fell in love with the club as well. Got a good rapport with the fans. And as far as Jack goes, what can you say? Another one, you know, he's very quickly now for me probably going to be the best player I've ever seen in a Villa shirt. You know, not only everything that he brings as a fan and everything, but such a talented player. Yeah. So I think I'd like to have somebody from the current crop, and he's probably the best what we've seen for a long time. So
definitely. I think that midfield's just really good. It just oozes quality, doesn't it? I think it would combine so well together. You know, you've got the brick wall behind them.
I think so. I think based on what you said, like a 5-a-side, if you went to the local 5-a-side pitch and Grealish and Merson turned up in the middle of your park, pretty much guarantee you're going to win most games, isn't you?
Yeah, definitely. No one can argue with that one. So who's up top then?
Right, this one is a bit of a left field one. I think I've tried to think outside the box a little bit. Again, you know, I'll sound like a broken record. There's plenty of Villa strikers I could have picked. But when you actually look at how many goals most of our top scorers have scored for us over the last, let's say, 20 years, there's not, you know, a massively prolific amount of strikers we've got. You know, I think, like I say, Tammy, who was now, was the first Villa striker since Peter Whiff to get 20 league goals. So while we've had very good strikers at the club, we've never had a player that's done like a Shearer or something that's just scored 20 goals every season. So based on this setup, 5, I wanted a player who was going to score, you know, the goals to win me this tournament. So this is why it's slightly different. I've gone for, he has played for the Villa, Luke Millis.
Brilliant. Great show.
The reasoning behind this was, when he signed for Villa, it was, again, he was 30 years old, he'd just come from PSG and won the league numerous times. His goal scoring record there, and for the other club he played for, I can't remember off the top of my head, is absolutely unbelievable. And we got him on a free transfer.
That's great.
There was him and Van Nistelrooy that were basically ripping it up at PSG. And we signed Millis on a free. He came to the club, and you know, players like Ronaldo, I've read that have said he's the best strike partner. That's the other Ronaldo, not the modern one, the Brazilian, that have said he's the best strike partner I've ever had. So for players like him to say things like that, you understand that when he came to the club in 2000, I think it was, we were like, oh my God, you know, I can't believe a player of his stature is coming to the club. We were finished twice 6th, I think, under Gregory. So he came to the club basically to get us in the Champions League. And I think I went to see him play in his debut in the Intertoto Cup, and he scored that night. And then many Villa fans probably have seen this goal many times because he's still one of the best goals I've ever seen at Villa Park. I think it was his home debut against Chelsea. the ball gets fed into him at the edge of the box, Holt end as well, so he's not in the other end, and he just clips the ball the outside of his boot around the defender, and in the same movement as it's dropping, he lashes at him with his left foot. Unbelievable goal. So again, another player that came with big expectations, and to do that on your debut, I think we were in dreamland thinking, oh my God, we are really going to step up this season. This is the player that finishes our team off, and we were going to push on. And in one of the most horrific things ever, he broke his leg 2 games after nothing. And just what might have been if he'd have stayed fit, who knows? You know, players of that calibre don't come to your club very often. And so I know he only played technically 3 games for the club, and I am probably cheating a little bit.
Yeah.
But I just remember at sort of what would have been about 23 years old then. So really in my heyday there, going down all the time. How excited I was. And so I've tried to think a little bit differently on the Luke Nellis one, hoping a few of the older fans get on my side with that one, mate.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Luke Nellis is my decision for the striker.
No, I'm really impressed with your team, to be fair. I think it's a real good team, and I think when anyone asks you to pick your favourite players, no one can really ever argue with you, to be fair, because it's what you take out of watching those players. Like, it was a bit like the kit episodes. Like, there could be a kit that you have a nostalgic memory from, and you can just like a player, can't you? Like,
definitely,
you could like the worst player we've got, but if there's something about them, then you just like them, and you just want them to do so well. So
I think that's sort of rings true, really, with the current side. One of my favourite players this season is Al Mohammadi.
Yeah,
and I've been beating his drum for a couple of seasons now because I just like him. He's not like the Grealish of the team. No. He's just a great pro who puts his effort in. He puts everything in, and that's, I love that. I mean, you look at this team I put together, with the exception of Merson, who cost I think 5.7 or 5 to 6 million quid. I think at the time, it was a lot of money. Bosnich cost us nothing. McGrath come on at 200,000, I think it was. Grealish came through the Leeds team. And Nilis was a free transfer. Yeah. So it just goes to show you don't have to spend big money. No. I know we all want these big signings, but it don't always work out that way. And to get a player who you love and a player who you have that affinity for, they ain't got to be the 20 million, 50 million, 60 million strikers. You want players to play for your shirt, who love playing for your shirt and genuinely want to do well, and I think all those players came to our club, with the exception of Nilis, because he didn't have enough time at the club, but they all came and fell in love with the club, and they all still talk very highly of the club now. I think that's probably why I didn't get Platty in, because while he was a brilliant player for us, ever since I've always felt when he left the club, he didn't really have a lot of good things to say about us after he left, which was a real shame because he was such an iconic player in that era. So that's why I've gone for players who I think, again, with the exception of this, that are really have got affinity with the players and the club still. So that was my thinking behind it.
Great team, Justin. So thanks for coming on, Justin, and dropping us your five-a-side team. We're going to do some voting after the video's out on Monday. So if you like Justin's team, drop him a vote.
Vote Justin. Vote Justin. Vote Justin. Right? Vote Justin's team.
So I'm delighted to say again, Seb's back to join us in pre-season. He's been put to the task with me to be watching over transfers, and obviously we haven't made any, so you haven't heard from Seb so far. So how's it going? How are you?
Yeah, no, I'm not too bad. I'm still sort of trying to make myself believe that we've somehow stayed up, but I'm looking forward to next season now, and I'm keeping an eagle eye on who might be coming through the door and who might be leaving the door. Yeah,
definitely. It's just exciting times, really, to see who is coming in, really, whether they're realistic or not. So, again, you've been set with a task, the ultimate Aston Villa five-a-side, in your opinion. So, what are we going for?
Well, I'll tell you what, I think I'd like to put out there, first of all, that I believe that I'm at some sort of disadvantage here due to the obvious age gap. Yeah. Justin's been seeing Villa for what seems like 200 years or so, whereas I'm relatively new to this. So I've had to do a bit of research and go back through the archives just to see who will make my team, because obviously in recent times you can't really pick too many players because we haven't been the best. But I feel that I've managed to put together a strong five-a-side that is willing to compete with everyone else's.
Let's go then.
Okay, so in goal, I obviously way before my time, but Nigel Spink I've gone for. He moved to Villa age 18, and obviously he didn't make an appearance for Villa until that night in Rotterdam. He got brought on as a substitute. You know, he probably wasn't expecting to feature, but he got brought on in one of the biggest games in our history, and he ended up keeping a clean sheet, winning us the cup. And then he went on to make 460 appearances for us before then going on to leave for West Brom. In that time, he also made 1 England cap and then retired at the age of 42 in June 2000. Brilliant. So a very successful long stint at the football club.
And to be fair, you cannot believe that he kept a clean sheet that night either. I mean, he just chucked into it. What a game. Like, we're still singing about that now. Like, do you know what I mean? So what a legend, what a keeper. I feel, to be fair, great shout for you to put him on in your team, to be fair. So defender-wise, what we're going for?
See, I had a massive toss-up here between two. I think the two obvious answers here are Olof Mellberg and Martin Larsson.
Okay.
Now, I didn't know which one to pick, but in the end, I think I've ended up going for Mellberg.
Yeah.
I think probably the more underrated of the two, in my opinion.
Okay.
However, I've gone for Mellberg because not only has he played in the centre-back role, but he's also been shunted out to the right during his time at Villa. Yeah. Obviously, the Swedish international, played in 2 World Cups and 4 European Championships as the Sweden captain. In 2001, Villa beat Barca to his signature, where he'd gone to play 232 games, forming a formidable partnership with Martin Larsson. On the opening day of the 2006-07 season, Mellberg became the first person to score a competitive goal at the new Emirates Stadium. And then in the 2007-08 season, Mellberg was shifted, as I said earlier, to the right back following the purchase of Zat Knight. Then in January 2008, Olof announced that he had signed a pre-contact with Juventus. Obviously, Villa fans were very upset by that. His final home game against Wigan Athletic was named Olof Mellberg Day in appreciation for his service at the club. And then his last away game, obviously at Upton Park, many people will remember this. He gave every single Villa fan in attendance there a shirt with his name and "Thanks for your support" written on the back. Hopefully you'll be able to find a photo of that. And not also that, he's then gone on, since retiring, he's then gone on to complete his coaching badges, and he's now currently manager of Helsingborgs.
What data you've just put up there, Seb. Great. Great stuff. What a player. Like, literally,
what a player.
He's one of my favourite defenders that I've seen Villa have. I think, you know, when everybody says Paul McGrath, God, like, if you weren't there to see him play, you do have to go to defenders like Mellberg and Larsson. So
I weren't even there to see Mellberg or Larsson play, really? But from what I've read up and what I've heard about the two, you know, you can't diss them. They've been brilliant at their time at the club, and they still follow the club, which is always nice.
Right, and I think players obviously like still hold them in like such high regard as well, which is really good and nice to see. And I know a lot of fans are like keeping an eagle eye on Mellberg's managerial career as well, just to see how he's doing as well. So we get into the tasty part of the team now. In any five-a-side, the front three. Well, start off with your midfield. Who are you gone for?
Well, my first midfielder and my captain for today, there was only ever going to be one choice in midfield. He had to make it in, and that's Stilian Petrov, the Bulgarian maestro. He joined Villa in 2006. He became club captain and was later inducted into the Aston Villa Hall of Fame in 2013. He joined for 6.5 million and was Martin O'Neill's first signing. Not a bad first signing to make. He suffered some patchy form in his first 2 years, but from 2008 his form sort of picked up, and in 2009 was named Supporters Player and Players Player of the Year. Subsequently, he then went and signed a 4-year deal, seeing him stay until 2013. But then Gerard Houllier came into the club, and he suffered a patchy relationship with him, as he also refused to pick Petrov, but never explained to Petrov why. So Petrov was sort of shunted out the team after having a brilliant campaign before, but was never really told why. He's also Bulgaria's most capped player with 105 appearances for his national team. You've got to be good at what you do to get 105 appearances. But however, again, his story at Aston Villa wasn't all brilliant, as in the 9th of May 2013, he announced his abrupt retirement due to leukemia. Villa fans clapped for a year in the 19th minute of every single home game in honour. And to have that such a big impact on the fans and the club as a whole, you don't get that if you're an average player. It just showed how much the fans and the team came together as one. Football was not as important as his personal matters, which shows what sort of club we are, really. He obviously had a long recovery process, and on the 9th of July 2016, Petrov played a pre-season friendly for Villa, winning 8-0. However, that summer, again, it just didn't seem to fall for Petrov, as Di Matteo refused to offer Petrov a contract. Much to his disappointment, however, he's now completed his coaching badges and he's looking for a path back into the game. And I personally feel that I'd love Stilian on our coaching team. Whatever he has to do, I feel as though his experience and know-how in the game, and also love for this football club, it can't go unrewarded. I think just give him a job, anything, youth setup, coaching the first team, whatever he would like to do, or whatever he feels is best to further his coaching career. I think Aston Villa need to be the first club in line to almost help him along that path, because it's not an easy path to make. But I feel if we can help him along that, he can only further himself, and one day he will go on to make a brilliant, brilliant manager.
Yeah, great stuff. I think when you were telling me about like the clapping and stuff, gave me like goosebumps. Still thinking about like what it was like to be in the stadium when that was happening every game as well. So for me, Petrov's a legend. And like you say, I think if you look at what we have done in pre-season so far, with a sporting director, head of recruitment, the academy, the signing of all these young players from abroad as well, I feel like there is a path for like Petrov and the people that obviously feel and get the club, because it holds the bond and knits everything still together. So I feel like you say, I'm all for that, and hopefully, there is a place for him, on some form of coaching setup. So who's going to be playing alongside him in midfield?
Again, Villa in their long history have had so many good midfielders. This was the position I probably struggled with the most. We have honourable mentions going out to Gareth Barry, Stuart Downing, Ashley Young, James Milner, and even Paul Merson. I was so close to putting Paul Merson in. However, I'm just nipping him is Ian Taylor.
Okay.
Yeah, he had a 15-year career in the Football League and the Premier League. He ended up scoring 103 goals in 577 league and cup competitions. He moved to Villa late on in the year of 1994, where he ended up lifting the League Cup and also reached the FA Cup final with us. He is a Villa fan, which obviously puts him higher up in our ranks, obviously. Before he later moved on to Derby County in 2003, meaning he had a successful 9-year stint with his boyhood club. That's what dreams are made of. We all dream of that when we're younger, in our gardens, playing for Villa. Yeah, the reason Taylor makes it in ahead of Merson is because of his commitments he's made to the club post-retirement, where he is an occasional pundit on AVTV. He's still held in very high regard by the Claret and Blue faithful, and to replace that, instead of sitting in the director's box, he travelled and sat with the away fans for the Second City Derby in 2005 and again in 2007. I remember the videos of him starting up the chants. He is one of us at the end of the day. And lastly, in 2011, Taylor rejoined Aston Villa after being appointed club ambassador. What's not to love about him?
What a midfield you've got there, Seb. I feel like you've created a brick wall. Like you've created the most solid 4 in a 5-a-side. I think he's going. So yeah, just too solid. What a team. So striker wise, what are we going for?
Right, so as you said, I've created this brick wall behind my striker. So I felt, what do I need to round off my 5-a-side perfectly? I need a bit of hold-up play and I need a bit of pace. And who perfectly to do that? Another Villa fan himself, Gabby Agbonlahor. My only striker in the team. As I said, he can lead the line perfectly with his hold-up play to his feet and then again with his blistering pace. He emerged through the Villa Academy. He made his debut in 2006, scoring on his debut the only goal in a defeat away at Everton. He went on to make over 300 Premier League appearances for the Villains, scoring 73 goals. He is Aston Villa's all-time leading Premier League goal scorer, having scored in 11 consecutive Premier League seasons. He also went on to make his England debut in 2006, earning 3 caps, which I think personally is an absolute robbery. How he hasn't gone on to make more and be a bigger name for England, I don't know how. He also got to 2 domestic cup finals with Villa, obviously sadly losing them both before retiring in 2018.
Great team, Seb. Great team. I feel like you've got a brick wall and pace. That's what you've got for. It's
Brilliant.
It's such a good team. So who would your manager be?
Right. You see, I wasn't too sure with this. So I decided to reach out on Twitter and ask people their opinions. I'd see if I could get them involved.
Yeah.
And these are just some of the results that came back. Simon Lines said John Gregory. He's the first Villa manager that he could remember, and we were pretty decent back then. Merson, Dublin, Angel, David James, Southgate, Ekiog, and Barry are just some class players. That team could have contended at the top.
Definitely. Great shout, Simon.
Jude Aston has said Dean Smith. You can never write off the passionate fan. And also B6 Ben and David. And Magnifico McGinn also agrees with him. He says after the last 10 years, he's been a breath of fresh air and looks like we're actually going somewhere with him involved.
Great shouts.
Nippy Ted says Ron Atkinson, as I used to love singing Big Fat Ron's Claret Blue Army. Or Dean Smith, as he's a lifelong fan and the success he's had at the club.
Great shouts there. Cool, mate. Anyway, thanks for your team and vote for Seb's team on Twitter.
Make sure you vote for mine, please, please, please.
Thanks, mate. Speak to you soon.
No worries.